Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our video tutorial on Zimsec O-Level Combined Science Paper 2 that was written in June 2024. In this tutorial, we'll be going over most recent questions from Combined Science Paper 2, June 2024, and breaking them down step by step. If you are preparing for your Combined Science exam in November 2024, this tutorial is perfect for you. We'll be covering all sections A to D, but in series. Today we cover section A, next tutorial section B, that is biology section, then section C, that is chemistry section, and finally section D, which is physics section. I will be providing detailed explanations and examples to help you understand the concept. Before we start our tutorial, I'm kindly asking for your support. As you know, these days Zimsec is no longer providing green books as it was doing in the past. That is why I started this channel to help students to revise in preparation of exams. Maths with Eve YouTube channel is loaded with video solutions from 2018 when integrated science was renamed Combined Science to June 2024. It's not easy to get the question papers, but I go extra mile to look for the papers and dedicate my time to create the videos. Why don't you just support this awesome work by subscribing? If you want to excel in your exams, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, subscribe to my channel for fresh content and exclusive insights. Let's get started. Grab your pen and paper. Let's dive into World of Science. Today we are going to revise section A. So in the final exams, candidates are required to answer all the questions in the spaces provided in the question paper. Number 1A, part 1 is saying, name and two female parts of a flower. The female part of a flower is known as pistil. It is usually located in the center of the flower, and it is made up of four parts, which are stigma, style, ovar, and ovule. And then part 2 is saying, state the part that produces the male sex cells in a flower. It is anther. So I'm going to look for a diagram of a flower so that you understand where we are going to see the stigma, the style, the ovar, the ovule, and the anther. So this is the diagram of a flower. Here, this is the stigma, which is the one that received the pollen grains. And then this one is the style, where we are having the pollen tube growing. And then this is the ovule, which is going to develop into seeds, and then this is the ovar, which is going to develop into a fruit. So this is known as pistil, and then the male parts of the flower, they are known as stamens, and we have the anther and the filament. The anther is the one that produces the pollen grains, and then the filament, it holds the anther in position. Let us now move on to B, part 1. It is saying, a farmer in Zimbabwe saw some maize seeds under irrigation in June. The percentage germination was 40%. Calculate the total number of seeds that were sown if 20,000 seeds germinated. So here we are going to let the total number of seeds sown be X. So we are saying 40% of X is equal to 20,000. So want to make X the subject of formula, we are going to divide both sides by 40%. So this 40% is going to cancel this 40%. And then we are going to say 20,000 divided by 40%. Let us punch on the calculator. We are saying 20,000 divided by 40%. We are going to obtain our final answer is 50,000. So it implies that the total number of seeds that were sown is equal to 50,000. And then let us move on to part 2. It is saying, explain why the percentage germination was low. The percentage germination was low because seeds were planted in winter. In winter, the temperature is going to be low, which is going to cause seeds to have slower metabolism, resulting in low percentage germination. We all know the requirements of seeds to germinate. Seeds, they require water, oxygen, and proper temperature in order to germinate. Of course, they can irrigate and the seeds get enough water. Of course, they can aerate for the seeds to get enough oxygen, but temperature, it is going to be low in winter. So this question was specific. It was not supposed to list in general causes of low germination. It was supposed to be in line with that statement, which is saying a farmer in Zimbabwe saw some seeds maize under irrigation in June. So the answer was supposed to be in line with the low temperatures. So that was all about number 1. Let us now move on to number 2. Number 2A, name the organ that is affected by excessive alcohol consumption. It is liver. Excessive alcohol consumption affects liver, causing a disease that is known as liver cirrhosis. Let us now move on to part B. It is saying suggest any 2 reasons why people abuse drugs. So the first reason that I'm going to explain is experimental purposes. At young age, many individuals are curious as to what happens when you take drugs, and because of this, they end up experimenting. The second reason that I'm going to explain is history within the family. Maybe someone belongs to the family which takes the drugs, so he or she end up also taking the drugs because of the history of the family. The third reason that I'm going to explain is peer pressure. Maybe all of your colleagues are taking in the drugs and you end up joining the squad. Other reasons also include stress due to divorce. There are so many individuals which I know who started to take the drugs after they divorce. Other reasons also include mental health illness, lack of family involvement, poor self-image, and also poor school performance. Let us move on to part C. Describe the effects of tobacco smoking by a pregnant woman. So the effects of tobacco smoking by a pregnant woman, it is going to result in low birth weight and premature birth. Tobacco smoking also results in increased risk of birth defects such as heart defects, increased risk of preterm labor and delivery, and also increased risk of miscarriage, stillbirth, and sudden infant death syndrome. And then on part D, we are supposed to state any 2 effects of glue sniffing to the human body. So glue sniffing is also known as solvent abuse. It is going to result in brain damage. The repeated exposure to solvent, it leads to permanent damage to brain cells and function. Damage of the brain cell is also going to result in memory loss, and also there's going to be liver and kidney damage. It also results in respiratory problems such as asthma, and also increased risk of accidents and injuries, sudden death from heart stopping functioning. There are so many effects of glue sniffing, and these are some of them. So this was the complete solution for number 2. That was in June 2024. Let us now move on to number 3. Number 3, A student carried out a research on a particular species of fish. The fish species cannot survive in water with a pH that is lower than 5.7 or higher than 8.5. The student analyzed the pH of water from 3 rivers X, Y, and Z. We're supposed to state the river which is alkaline water. It is River Z. River Z is alkaline because alkaline is from pH 8 to pH 14. And then on part 2, it is saying identify the river in which the species cannot survive. We are going to write River X because they are specifying that the fish cannot survive in water with pH that is lower than 5.7, of which pH of River X is 3.5, which is lower than 5.7. And then part B is then saying define the term neutralization. Neutralization reaction is when acid and base are reacted together to form salt and water. Let me repeat to explain again. When we react acid and bases, we are going to form neutral substances, that is salt and water, and the process is known as neutralization reaction. Let us now move on to part C. It is saying calculate the concentration in moles per cubic decimeter of a solution that is made by dissolving 212 grams of sodium carbonate in 0.25 cubic decimeter of water. So the first step here is that we need to find the number of moles of sodium carbonate. We find the number of moles of sodium carbonate by saying given mass over molecular mass. So the given mass is 212 grams. So we say 212. Then we are informed that the molecular mass of sodium carbonate is 106. If we say 212 divided by 106, we are going to get 2 moles. And then after that, we now need to calculate the concentration. Concentration is equal to number of moles over volume. So the number of moles is 2 moles, and then the volume is 0.25 cubic decimeter. So let us punch on the calculator. We want to calculate 2 divided by 0.25. We are going to get 8 as our answer. So it means that the concentration is going to be 8 moles per cubic decimeters. So this was the complete solution of number 3 that was in June 2024. Let us now move on to number 4. Number 4 was a question on organic chemistry. It is saying Fig 4.1 shows displayed formula of 2 organic molecules. Define the term homologous series. Homologous series is a collection of organic compounds with same general formula that differ only in carbon chain length. Examples of homologous series that we have are the alkanes, the alkenes, and alcohols. And then part 2 is saying state the homologous series to which each molecule belongs. So X is an alkane, and then Y is an alcohol. And then B part 1 is saying explain why molecule Y cannot be classified as hydrocarbon. It can be classified as hydrocarbon because hydrocarbon contains carbon and hydrogen only. Y is containing the oxygen, which disqualifies it from being a hydrocarbon. Then part 2 is then saying calculate the percentage composition by mass of hydrogen in molecule X. First, we need to find the molecular mass of molecule X. So the molecular mass of methane, it is going to be 12 for carbon plus 4 times 1 hydrogens, which is equal to 16. And then the total of hydrogen, we are having 4. So now to find the percentage of hydrogen, we are going to say this 4 over 16 times 100%. 4 into 4, 1. 4 into 16, we get 4. 4 into 100, we are going to get 25. So it implies that the percentage of hydrogen is going to be 25%. So this was the complete solution of number 4. That was in June 2024. Let us now move on to number 5. Number 5A, a force of 8 newtons was applied onto a knife to cut through 0.05 meters of a material. Calculate the energy used to cut the material. So you should know that energy is work done. To calculate work done or energy, the formula is force times distance. So the force is 8 newtons, and then the distance is 0.05. So we need to punch on the calculator 8 times 0.05. We are obtaining our answer is 0.4, and then the energy is measured in joules. So make sure that you don't forget to write the units. And then part B is then saying Fig 5.1 is an incomplete diagram that is representing the production of shadows. Complete the diagram to show the shadow formed. So before I complete the diagram, I'm going to explain what happens for the shadow to be formed. When an object blocks the path of light from the light source, it creates a shadow. The light rays travel from light source and hit the object. The object then absorbs or it reflects some of the light because it doesn't allow it to pass through. The blocked light rays, they are going to create dark area behind the object, which is known as shadow. And also the shape and size of shadow, it depends on shape and size of object as well as the distance from the light source. So in this, we are going to have a circular shadow in this screen. So I'm going to complete the diagram. So this is how we are going to complete the diagram. We are going to show that the rays are coming from the light sources by indicating with these arrows. And also we are going to have a cast shadow, which is dark in color. That is why I've shaded here. And this area is known as shadow cone. Let us now move on to part C. It is saying, write the energy chain to show the energy changes that occur when a torch is switched on. So chemical energy that is stored in cells is converted into electrical energy. The electrical energy which flows through the bulb of torch is then transformed into light energy and the torch bulb glows. So this was the complete solution of number 5 that was in June 2024. Let us now move on to the final question, which was number 6 in section A. Number 6A, part 1, state the Newton's third law of motion. The Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And then part 2 is then saying, identify an application of Newton's third law of motion. When we are jumping out from the boat, let me explain how Newton's third law of motion applies when we are jumping out from the boat. When we start jumping out of rowing boat, we push boat backwards without the feet. The boat exerts equal and opposite force on us in the forward direction, which enables us to move forward. Let me explain again. When we start jumping out of rowing boat, we push boat backward without the foot. The boat exerts equal and opposite force on us in the forward direction, which enables us to move forward. And also another application of Newton's third law of motion is when the rocket is going upward, it pushes hot gases downwards. Then B, part 1, Fig 6.1 shows a box of mass 40 kg being pulled horizontally. A frictional force of 80 newtons is acting on the box. We're supposed to indicate using an arrow on the diagram the frictional force. So frictional force is going to oppose the motion, so it is going to be an arrow that is facing this side. And then on part 2, we are supposed to calculate the resultant force. So we say 280 newtons is equal to resultant plus frictional force. And then we need to make resultant force the subject of formula. So we are going to shift this friction to be on the side. We are going to subtract it so that our resultant force is going to be 200 newtons. And then finally on part 3, it is saying calculate the acceleration of the box. So you should know the second law of motion, Newton's second law of motion. It says force is equal to mass times acceleration. In this case, we want to find acceleration, so we are going to divide both sides by mass. So we are going to take this resultant force, which is 200 newtons, and then we divide by 40 kgs for us to have our acceleration is 5 meters per second squared. So it is very important that you don't leave the units. This was the complete solution for number 6 that was in June 2024. This marks the end of our tutorial today on section A of Combined Science paper 2, June 2024. If you want to join my WhatsApp classes, you can contact me on 0776 82 4159. I have awesome class which I run every day from 7 to p.m., which is packed with past exam question paper revision, PowerPoint presentation notes, final exam tips, and also I gave students assignment after each and every lesson which I mark. Thank you so much. This is Eve signing out. Don't forget to subscribe.